A Greg Berhalter masterclass? Maybe. Let's find out more about what went right and what went wrong. What went wrong for the US?
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Let's find out what went right and what went wrong for the US men's national team in their match against England, which they drew 0-0. What is up, everyone? This is It's Called Soccer. My name is Jake. I'm a UEFA C licensed coach. I love to break down the tactics in the world of soccer. It would be my honor, nay, a distinct privilege, if I could call you a subscriber. We're trying to get to 6,500 before the World Cup ends. I need 250 of you to just hit that subscribe button down below. But now, let's get to the England vs USA 0-0 draw. The first thing that we have to talk about is the shape of both teams and the formations that each team used, because the US added a little bit of a wrinkle into their normal 4-3-3 that really threw the England national team off their game. England came out in an unchanged 4-3-3 with no changes to their starting 11 to the team that beat Iran 6-2, and the US made one change, switching out Josh Sargent for Haji Wright in what we thought was going to be a 4-3-3, but actually turned out to be a 4-4-2 in defense. What this looked like on the pitch was that Timothy Weah and Haji Wright were partnered up top, and Weston McKennie was taking more of a right center midfielder role throughout the game. Tyler Adams and Yunus Musah patrolled the center, and Christian Pulisic tucked in a little bit deeper at left midfielder. This formation for the US was really only when they were out of possession, and it allowed them to mark space instead of marking players. This really played into the strengths of Tyler Adams and Yunus Musah, and you could tell how dominant they were because we didn't really talk about Jude Bellingham at all, and he was going to be one of the breakout stars for this match. I just want to say as well, a little pat on the back, a little toot of the old horn, is that in this channel 3 weeks ago, I actually talked about how a 4-4-2 would work really well for the US in defense and playing in possession in a 4-3-3, very similar to what Leeds did against Liverpool when they got a result. And I have to say, Greg must be watching this channel because he did the exact same thing against England, and it did work a charm. The 4-4-2 of the US matched up perfectly for the 4-3-3 of England, and as England tried to build out of the back, the strikers would squeeze inside and take away the options to Declan Rice or Jude Bellingham. But when they forced England to go wide to their fullbacks, we had a midfielder to defend the pass, whether that was Weston McKennie or Christian Pulisic. When an England midfielder was available to pick up the ball, it was a tight space as Adams and Musah did an excellent job of closing down the dribblers in the middle of the pitch. Harry Kane, who at this point was supposed to break the England scoring record, struggled to get touches as the US clogged the middle, and Walker Zimmerman and Tim Ream were much stronger in the air. This removed a lot of the danger the England possession game posed by removing their biggest threats of ball progression. Think back to the match and see how many times you can recall a positive play by one of England's front three. It wasn't perfect, and there were tentative moments in the match where England were able to slip through, whether that was a lapse in concentration, but I also want to focus on the left side when Anthony Robinson was pushing up the pitch and Christian Pulisic was more reluctant to defend. Sometimes this left Tim Ream in 3v2 situations, but the Fulham partnership was up for it. You can see this space exposed in Harry Kane's chance at 10 minutes, where Anthony Robinson was pulled up the field, Pulisic was slow to get back, and we had to defend with three, and England did really well to find the space. It also has to be said how good Serginho Dest was in defending. That's not something that we talk about every day, is Serginho Dest's defending ability, and especially against one of the world's best in Raheem Sterling, he really had him in his pocket all night long. He did this by being very aggressive on Raheem Sterling's first touch, and made sure that he had a body on his back and Raheem Sterling couldn't turn. Once Jedi was able to get up and down the pitch a few times, the England winger on that side, Bukayo Saka, had to respect the threat that Jedi presented, and this also meant that England's formation started to shift in response to the US. But since they weren't meant to be playing with tucked-in wingers, the formation became lopsided, effectively cutting off half of Harry Kane's support. You can see this in the average position for the starting 11 of England. And speaking of support, It's Called Soccer is trying to raise $5,000 for the Open Goal Project, a groundbreaking organization breaking barriers associated with pay-to-play American youth soccer. It is our World Cup goal to raise $5,000 for this organization. So as Giving Tuesday comes upon us and we think about that US-Iran game, please think about giving to this $5,000 goal to the Open Goal charity. Now let's talk a little bit about the US attack, because when we were in possession, we did hold the ball in a 4-3-3, with Pulisic taking up more of a forward position, Haji Wright as the number 9, and Timothy Weah as the right winger. The best part of all of this was the dynamic ability on both sides of the field for the US. On the left was a duo of Anthony Robinson and Christian Pulisic where they interchanged positions and really disorganized the England defense, while the right side of the US attack stretched the defensive line back with runs from Timothy Weah and the individual skill from Sergiño Dest. You can see in the US's average position on the field throughout the game that we really tried to stretch that right side. England didn't know whether at all times throughout the match to defend a 1-2 pass, or maybe to defend a more vertical run from Timothy Weah or Sergiño Dest, and it really became apparent throughout the game that the US was the one that was taking initiative. This exact type of patient interplay led to the big chance of the first half where Weston McKennie skied it from 10 yards out. It was a difficult ball to control, but one that McKennie can do better with. That same dynamism in attack saw a Pulisic shot off the crossbar and England on the back foot. Now let's talk about some of the macro things that were happening throughout this game, because despite the result, this was one of the best performances top to bottom from the US in a long time. The system worked a charm, and Greg Berhalter needs to be given credit for that. Obviously, we can talk about his substitutions, which really seemed more like a counterplay to Gareth Southgate's substitutions, putting in Shaq Moore to counter Jack Grealish, but at the same time, that first plan to go out in a 4-4-2 really worked well against England, and I think he needs credit for that. If the goal is to change the way that the world sees American soccer, then this game is honestly a blueprint of how to do that. When England pressed us, everyone on the team, including Matt Turner, including our goalkeeper, which has historically not been great with his feet, was excellent and confident on the ball to break the press. Unless you've played the game before, it's hard to understand how demoralizing it is to have a team break your press and to continually do that from goalkeeper to defender and to progress the ball through each stage of the field. It really seemed to have a demoralizing effect on the England team, where at some point they kind of just gave up and were happy with a point. It helped the US too because it stops England from stepping up and putting higher pressure up every time that they got the ball. We do also have to say that none of this would be possible without Tim Ream, and what a revelation he has been. Not necessarily a part of the team 6 months ago, but we were desperate to find a partner for Walker Zimmerman in that defensive line, and can you imagine if Aaron Long was there right now? We really need to make sure to give credit to Tim Ream. He was everywhere on the pitch with his head, his physicality, and with his one-on-one defending. It was good too. We also can't talk about this match without talking about Matt Turner. And honestly, he was excellent in shot stopping. He was excellent with his feet, but I also want to mention and give him credit as well. He was very confident when coming out for crosses and set pieces, and that really gave confidence to the rest of the backline. Now, it did give you a little bit of a heart attack, I'm sure, when he started to dribble out in the 80-something minute, but that's the Arsenal DNA that Matt Turner now has, and you could see he was just oozing with confidence throughout the match. The US does need to improve a few things if they do want to enter kind of that next contender category. A goal scorer that can reliably put the ball in the net, and the consistency of this type of performance would go a long way to seeing the US reach that pinnacle. You can see that we're not far off, but with a young team that's very up and down, if we can string a few of these performances together, that can really put us into the next level of national teams. One thing we have to improve on is our set pieces. Before this game, we had to talk about the set piece delivery of Christian Pulisic, but that greatly improved in this match. But it seemed like nobody was trusting him to get it into those danger areas, and although we had 7 corner kicks and they were all very good deliveries, nobody was able to get ahead on it. And we have Walker Zimmerman, we have Tim Ream, we have Weston McKennie, who are all excellent in the air, and none of them were attacking the space. On the defending side, it gets a little bit scary because in the last minute of the game, Harry Kane had one of the best chances of the match with a somewhat contested header at the 6-yard box that went wide, but we have to be better in attacking and defending set pieces, which is weird because it's historically something that the US has been very strong in. To sum it up though, you just have to look at how England was playing us in the last 20 minutes, because at some points in the match, and especially towards the end there, it looked like England just conceded that we were the better team and they were happy with a point. Now, while Greg and the team deserves tons of credit for this performance, a draw is a draw. It was not 3 points, and the result against Wales looks even worse now because of the position that we're in. We need to win against Iran on Tuesday, and it is not going to be easy, I can tell you that right now. But this performance, if anything, should make you feel much better going into that match. If this team can add some consistency to their toolkit, I think we'll be all right come Tuesday. Thanks everyone so much for watching this episode of It's Called Soccer. I'll see you next time to preview the Iran vs US men's national team match on Tuesday. Peace.